Our next guest will talk about energy storage and energy communities. His name is Fousek. Hello, Honza.
Good morning to everyone, and hello, Nikita. Sorry, I was muted.
No worries. I hope you're all well, and please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the great moderation. Thank you Nordic Chamber for inviting me. It was good to hear my predecessors, my previous fellow speakers, how business reacts on the lack of activities of Czech government. Unfortunately, in that point, really the approach of our government is not really good towards anything, I would say, modern, in respect to energy business, and that's what my next about 15 minutes will be about. My colleagues mentioned or introduced a little bit their institutions, hence I will do the same. Svaz moderní energetiky, or Union of Modern Energies, Czech, let's say, umbrella organization for associations active in the field of modern energy. Solar Association, Association for Energy Storage, e-mobility, water, renewable water, small water installations, energy communities, flexibility, etc. So that's what Svaz moderní energetiky is doing. I am the member of its board as a CEO of Association for Energy Storage, and also chairman of the board of Solar Association. Therefore, name of my presentation is Solar Energy Storage and Energy Communities, and I will starting my stopwatch as well. Okay, speaking about solar energy generally, you can see on the, I think that the most speaking of everything, you can see the comparison with other countries. They are about to be compared to or comparable to Czech Republic, Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, and others, especially Hungary and Poland. Let's say the V4 countries, they are much ahead of Czech Republic. So you cannot say that only rich Germany or Baltic countries or the Nordic countries can be renewable. It's not true. Even a so coal-oriented country as Poland built 2.2 gigawatts of solar only last year, and it's because of auctions. We are successful as well. We added 104% compared to the previous year, but the problem is that we added 51 megawatts. So it's 0.05 gigawatts, which we connected. So we are hundreds of times behind other countries of our type. We have some renewables targets for 2030, and we have to meet them, of course. And the question is how we can do it, and if we can do it with the business as usual scenario or not, and what tools do we have. And that's also something what I would like to touch upon in my presentation. So the truth is that the current growth is far too slow, but we have a huge potential in so-called Modernization Fund. I will shortly introduce it in the next couple of minutes. The only problem is that this fund has to come, let's say, from Brussels or from this particular one from emissions allowances from the Czech industry. Again, it's not the proactive approach of the Czech government. It's just the business who has to pay for development of renewables. We also have a huge potential, untapped one, of utility scale photovoltaics. These are the ones, the larger photovoltaic powered parks, especially on the polluted areas like brownfields, etc. The one they are not usable for agriculture. We also have to tap the new trends like agrivoltaics. These are the panels the agriculture owners can use. Like a floating PV, there's a lot of projects on the water, floating solar panels. This is really good, and also for the water, or solar facades, which can be interesting for especially listeners of this webinar. So what are the barriers and challenges? Or even my previous fellow speakers and even I touched it shortly. The problem is that our government is definitely not the supportive one. There are ongoing governmental efforts to cut subsidies for existing PV installations, which will be like 10th or 12th another retroactive changes, which will check the potential renewable compensation, overcompensation, and the solar projects got the minimum IRR. The process is ongoing, and it's concerning the legal changes. Also, the Czech government, from our point of view, absolutely unreasonably decided to exclude PV photovoltaics from renewable energy auctions from this year, starting this year. So the wind turbines can take place, the wind producers, wind investors, and all other renewable sources, but not solar. What is very strong in our environment is a large effort of traditional energy companies and co-lobby to delay the transposition of the EU legislation. What we unfortunately face is also strong stigmatization of PV owners by state leader to be solar barons or solar tycoons, if you want. So even though the situation is absolutely different, and we basically do not need much of the operational support, we still get the stigmatization to be barons, and also there is the lack of energy storage and the support in the law, and I will speak about it now. So that was the state of solar, which is not really the right one. Hopefully, the Modernization Fund and other subsidy funds, let's say, will help it a little bit if the government is not going to do it, or the elections hopefully will solve this problem. What's the situation about energy storage? I told you I also represent the Association for Energy Storage, AKUBAT. Since 2017, we have only 4 large-scale batteries in Czech Republic of 10 megawatts. And even 2 of them, which is 50% of them, are in the trial mode, and they basically cannot be, they even cannot deliver energy to the grid because there is still lack of legislation within the last 4 years, and that's what we try to change. So there is the novelization of the existing Energy Act. So it's there are 2 differences. You can see there below is New Energy Act. That's something New Energy Act. That's something else, and a novelization of the existing ones, which, by the way, mentions also flexibility, aggregation, and some other trends of the modern energy. Unfortunately, doesn't include any mention, even after 4 years of our effort, any mention of the energy storage, which is important for having the chance to obtain the license for energy storage. It's actually important period of time as for solar and energy storage, because the 2 most important legal amendments are currently being negotiated by the parliament. Energy storage and solar probably even this week or maximum in 2 weeks should be discussed. So it's really like a week D or D-Day for solar and energy storage. We initiated a legal amendment which would change the legislation. The leader or the carrier of this proposition is Mr. Marian Jurečka, chairman of KDU-ČSL, a political party. We got a support of most of the opposition. Unfortunately, I'm afraid it's not going to be enough. And the problem is that we face a lot of negative pressure from especially the Association of District Heating, and also a lot of, I would say, lies, fake news, and others speaking about energy storage as new solar, baronship, and repeating the mistakes from the past, which is absolutely untrue, and we try to put it right. What's very favorable for energy storage, and what my predecessor Franta Vašek mentioned, is the update of code of Czech TSO, ČEPS, who changed on the 1st of January 2021 its code, which allows exactly standalone batteries together, and also aggregators of flexibility to take part in stabilization of the energy grid. But the problem is that still you need a license for the energy storage. So even even though the Czech institutions allow it and propose it, like Czech TSO, Energy Regulatory Office, all three distribution companies, still the Ministry of Industry and Trade, hence the Czech government, opposes it very hard and try not to change it. What's at least optimistic for the future is the new Energy Act, where Modern Energy together with Akubat took a great part, and we still are taking part in the preparations. It includes all the aspects of modern energy and what the European Union wants from us. But the problem is that it's expected that this law will step into force within at least 2 or 3 years, depending also on the elections. Because I'm running a little bit late, or soon I will be out of time. Basically, here you can see what I already mentioned. That we face some like efforts to slow down the development of energy storage and solars. And here it is described. But again, the industry, its approach is very optimistic. And also we have some operational programs and funds which should help it, and we are very glad for that. We have operational programs. Here you can see their list. Most of you probably know it from other perspectives of your business. What's good for houses is new green for saving. You know it. These are the photovoltaics and batteries on the houses. You can see on the households roofs. But what's really the greatest one is the Modernization Fund. We will look into it on the next slide. But also Just Transition Fund, which should help the regions. They are hardly affected by the coal phase out to invest into complete restructuring of the whole business. That the whole region is not going to be anymore dependent from 70% of all services and on all employees places on coal. The problem is again that our government tends to use those funds like Recovery and Resilience Facility and Just Transition Fund as a remediation of a state budget, and that's something what of course Brussels doesn't like. Basically, my last important slide taps the Modernization Fund, as I indicated. It's a absolutely huge new program where 39% out of the funds are allocated to renewables, around 2.3 billion euro until 2030. It's great. The pre-registration calls were already done in February this year. We are part of the preparation committee of that. Of course, there were some step backs, but also some positive ways, and most of the optimistic points are, I would say, in the modernization for, or it's most of the things are positive, I would say. And it should support development of renewables together with energy storage, decarbonization of the Czech energy and Czech industry. And we expect it's going to be really a large help for the development of renewables if the state doesn't help it. The only problem is that the request just in the pre-registration calls was collected in the amount, in the height of 20 billion euros, while the whole budget is like 6 or 7 billion euros. So really, it's large, but it's great to see the interest. And my last slide is just about energy communities. That's something what I would like to share with you. We as a Modern Energy Union are undergoing a research project defining the potential of energy communities for active energy consumers. You might know it as prosumers. These are the the household owners. They have mostly their photovoltaics on the roof, their batteries in the garage, and they can basically take an active part in stabilizing the Czech energy grid. And that's, for example, something what Nano Energies and Chess and others are doing. The first output we should be presented in summer 2021, which means in very few months, and another part is supposed to take place in 2022. Nikita, I hope I was on time, more or less, but you didn't stop me. So that's enough for me, and looking forward to your questions.
Just in time, just in time. My quick follow-up questions to this debate about energy storage. What's going to happen now? So there is no law yet that will allow companies to store the energy in their batteries. Is there going to be any law, or is it going to still be a big political debate about it?
Basically, we have a chance within, during the second readings in the parliament. That's happening now during the discussions about the novelization of the Energy Act, right? And the question is, if our amendment, which should include energy storage into the law, will be approved by the parliament, by the lower chamber or not. And we are going to know it either even until the end of this week, or within 2 weeks, or let's say a couple of weeks, but we will already know it. And then there is no other chance until the new Energy Act, which I mentioned, which includes energy storage and flexibility and other new forms of modern energy in full extent. But the problem is that it's going to take place in 2 or 3 years. So basically, the discussion is hard now, and had been hard within last since the beginning of the year, let's say since January of this year, last 3 months, let's say. It's very hard, and we heard a lot of lies, especially from the Communist Party on the Industry and Economic Committee in the lower Chamber of Commerce. We have to face it. We have to fight against it, but the problem is, as you know, that the fake news is hard to defend against and to spread them. So we are unfortunately on the lower end of that, and we hear that batteries, even though the amendment doesn't include any operational support or any kind of support. It's just the license for energy storage, and we can hear a lot of things like new barons and tunneling the state budget through batteries like solar barons, etc. So it's very hard. It's very psychologically hard, I would say, but definitely it's going to be clear in 2 or 3 weeks.
And if we're talking here at this webinar about leading by example, if you look to Germany, do you have an example of such development, for example, in Germany? What's going on in there? Are they storing energy in their batteries already?
That was a great question. Germany, but also, for example, UK. Germany is, I would say, number one, or it used to be. Now it's number one in UK. In Germany, just for information of our listeners, just in batteries. But of course, we are discovering other forms like power to gas, creating the green hydrogen, etc. But just in batteries for stabilizing the grid in Germany is about 1.5 gigawatts, which means 1,500 megawatts, just for stabilization of the grid and of standalone batteries, and the same pace for UK. The numbers are changing every month, but we are talking about really like a higher hundreds of megawatts or lower thousands of megawatts of energy storage. While we have working 2 of them, and they can be only connected with the spinning reserve, which means the traditional sources. That's the problem.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Hansa.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Likewise, thank you.
A quick summary. As we heard, the energy market with renewables continues to grow. Unfortunately, it continues to grow too slowly. Companies don't have enough playing field, and the Czech government creates somehow or can create unpredictable environments, especially for the mid and long-term perspective. Coal lobby does not help. There is, however, huge potential with energy storage. Neighboring countries are trying to maximize this potential, and according to Jan Fousek, we should do it as well. The European Modernization Fund could be an opportunity for players that want to innovate. This was our first panel on how healthy living can be looked at from the global perspective. Our second panel will touch upon healthy indoor environment and living. And let's talk about home. Last year of COVID has proven to us that we need to take care of our immediate environment, not only about our world environment. Our panelists will discuss the topics connected to quality of our home, of our air, and by the end of today's webinar, also about our mind and other senses.